Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown!
Yes. 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard. It is tax day, and appreciate having you along with us, as always, on this beautiful Monday. Man, it's going to be an absolutely beautiful day. Thanks a lot for joining us, as I said. Looking forward to getting everybody in today. It's a busy schedule, but we'll start off with the man, Greg Rakestraw, hardest working man in sports business. Gregory, how are you, sir?
I'm good, my brother. It's good to talk to you.
You as well. I know it might seem to slow down, but it doesn't really. As the spring just rolls on. We've got all kinds of things coming, whether it's the Indy 500, the Kentucky Derby. Now we've got soccer, baseball going on. It just doesn't stop. What have you been doing to stay busy?
Well, a lot of baseball and a little bit of soccer. And so I'm very fortunate. I get to see about 3 or 4 different colleges play baseball and do a Division I college tournament at the end of May. So this weekend, I took a couple of trips over to Terre Haute to see Indiana State, which every bit as good as they are in basketball, they might be better in baseball. Remember, they got to host. There was no NCAA snub for Indiana State last year. They got to host a regional, and if they had maybe been a little more prepared, they would have hosted a super regional too, as they made the final 16 of baseball last year. Jim, this year they are 27-7. The latest RPI has them at number 13 in the country, which would put them in position to host a regional again the weekend after Memorial Day. They beat Bradley this weekend in run rule fashion in all 3 games, including scoring 10 in the 8th inning yesterday, having a pair of grand slams in the same inning. They have split with Indiana, because Indiana's pretty good too. They are 6-2 as Indiana State against major college competition. Those 2 losses, one at Indiana on April the 4th, the other one at Vanderbilt back in early March. So Indiana State's really good. I get to do Indy 11 soccer. Unfortunately, Indy 11 now not off to a good start. We've lost 4 of our first 6. We played a lot of the best teams in the league, including Charleston on Saturday night, a 4-2 loss. But the big news, frankly, in Indianapolis today has nothing to do with anything that I am covering. While it is known as Tax Day on April 15th, it may also be known as Caitlin Clark Day going forward, since the Fever will obviously draft her with the first pick of the WNBA draft taking place in Brooklyn a little after 7:30 tonight.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter a picture of her wearing the Indy Fever jersey, and it's almost like you have to do a double take. You're like, wait, what? It says Indiana on that jersey. It's kind of wild, but yeah, different chapter in her life. Much less for the Fever as well. As man, the Fever are in position to really take advantage of that.
Of course, and let's face it, the Indiana Fever, have had some great times in years gone by. They won the championship in 2012. It wasn't their first year, but in their second year, they drafted Tamika Catchings, and she was here for 16 years. And she is still here in the Indianapolis area. She is such a wonderful ambassador for her sport, as well as for this town. Well, now you bring in somebody that has that same, sort of ambassador-like qualities, but honestly has a far bigger following and national level of interest than Tamika Catchings ever did. The Indiana Fever from 2016 through 2023 had the worst record in North American professional sports. They were never seriously threatening the playoffs over the course of 7 years. Last year, they were better, but I think they kind of pumped the brakes at the end of the season, saying, wait a minute, we have a chance to get this generational talent and to be blunt, this maker of millions of dollars Indiana Fever tickets have been going like crazy ever since the Fever won the WNBA draft lottery. In case you didn't catch this last week, the Fever will play 40 games this year. 36 of them will be available on national television. I would be stunned if every Fever home game is not a sellout. This is the type of crazy phenomenon that Caitlin Clark has turned into.
Yeah, it's amazing when one person can make that kind of an impact, but Caitlin Clark is doing that for the Fever. My question is, will she drive the pace car for the Indianapolis 500 like Tyrese Halliburton did last year?
That would not be a shock if she does. What I have not done is check the Fever schedule to see what the overlap looks like on May 26th. A lot of times, the other sports teams in town are out of town to get out of the way of the hotel rooms and things like that. So, for example, the Indianapolis Indians are always on the road and always come back and start a homestand, a 2-week homestand, right after Memorial Day. The Indy 11 actually have now started playing home games on Saturday night, since Saturday night's kind of a dead time before the race. And so they are in town. But as far as the Fever, normally that means they're on the road on race day. If not, I can guarantee you she'll be doing something. The folks at IMS pick up on things just like you did. There's a very good chance she's going to be waving a green flag, driving a pace car, having some sort of official function in front of 350,000 people at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And the one bad thing for the ladies coming out of college basketball, going right into the WNBA, is one season ends and the next one begins immediately. There is no lag time, and that would seem like, wow, that'll get you worn out.
It does, but again, let's face it. It's not like you're asking a player to do that in a football season. These players are going to play at some level, some summer league, whatever the case may be. And you're right, it is wear and tear on the rookies, but at the same time, it is a gold mine for the WNBA and for the Indiana Fever, to where Caitlin just played her last college basketball game 8 days ago. And now basically 1 month from today, she's playing her first WNBA game. So there's no time for her and the amazing wave of PR and popularity that she's riding. You know, it doesn't go out of the back of fans' minds. They don't forget about her. She'll be off cameras maybe for a few days. And then all of a sudden, here comes, Caitlin Mania starting back up here in Indianapolis in the middle of May.
And though, one thing I do think of is they're going to be playing ball regardless. You can't, when you're at that level, you can't really take off. You've got to keep your body in shape. You've got to keep everything in shape because you have a limited window when it comes to the lifespan. So it's got to be kept at top peak all the time.
And the one thing that she will get, and the WNBA has tried to get salaries to this point, and the whole Brittany Griner thing kind of sped this up. But obviously for many years, American players play in the WNBA because they wanted to play in their home country. They wanted to play in front of friends and family. But frankly, a lot of them made more money playing in Europe. Now you have a handful of players that play overseas. But frankly, the top players are paid enough where they don't have to. And obviously, because of all of the endorsements that Caitlin has and will be bringing with her from the University of Iowa, she doesn't have to go play overseas. She can focus on 40 games a year for the Indiana Fever, whatever the playoff structure is going to look like. And don't forget, Jim, this is also an Olympic year. And there is a good chance she is on the Olympic team, which means that as her teammates, other than maybe Aaliyah Boston, get a 1 month break, because that's the break the WNBA season takes in Olympic years. Caitlin, probably doesn't get that. She's going to Paris and representing Team USA,
which will be a blast for her. So what's up next for you coming up this week?
So a little college baseball on Thursday, a little high school softball, or college baseball today at 1 o'clock, doubleheader at Marion University. Little high school softball coming up on Thursday night. But my standards, Jim, I actually have a bit of a slow week. So I do get to catch a bit of a breath, because next week you and I may have to figure out a different day for me to be on this show, because next Monday I will be on a flight to Springfield, Massachusetts, because I get to do something really cool next week. I am doing we would call it 3-on-3. These days internationally, it's known as 3x3, but it is an Olympic sport, and there is kind of a last chance qualifier for teams to qualify for the Olympics. I'll be on the call of that for USA Basketball and for FIBA, and it takes place inside of the Naismith Hall of Fame next Tuesday and Wednesday. So perhaps we do this interview on Tuesday, and I give you a walking tour of the Naismith Hall of Fame while we're having this conversation. How does that sound?
That would be awesome, because I have not been to the Naismith Hall of Fame, and I'm definitely not in it. So that would be a great.
Give it time, Jim.
Absolutely.
Give it time. You might make it as a contributor. You never know.
How did you manage to land that gig?
So luckily, we at ISC Sports Network, we have produced a lot of events for USA Basketball over the years. They used to have an event called the US Open, which is kind of the end of the AAU season, the 15-16 kind of summer national championships. That event was at Grand Park in the Pacers Athletic Center for many years. That event has since moved around, but we've kept that relationship with USA Basketball. So we've been fortunate. We have produced events for them in Springfield, Massachusetts, Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was in Memphis for the US Open this past year. I'm going to go down to Rock Hill, South Carolina for that event this coming season. So thankfully, that is a part of the ISC Sports Network empire, and I get to make a little road trip for 3 days coming up next week.
Looking forward to it, my friend, and I can't wait. And we'll look forward to seeing what all happens there. Enjoy it, and we'll chat about all that next week.
All right, buddy. Make sure by next week you have a Caitlin Clark jersey on display behind you. No offense to Victor Oladipo. You can push him off to the side. Make sure Caitlin's got some room in that lovely studio of yours.
I like number 22. It's not a bad one to have.
Thanks, Jim. Have a great week.
Thank you, my friend. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, we're powered by Andy Moore Honda, where you can go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door and the best in new and used vehicles all the time. In addition to Hoosier Hanks East, which I was over there just a few days ago as I was preparing to go out to the Clayton Anderson concert, which was cool. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. The first concert at the IU Memorial Stadium since John Mellencamp performed back in the 80s. That blows my mind that has not happened in between, but oh well. But Hoosier Hanks East, of course, located off College Mall Road in Bloomington, has an array of custom pizzas, Strom's baked wings, mac bowls, fresh salads, and so much more. You can dine in, carry out, or have Hank cater your next event. Hoosier Hanks East is a great place to watch the games or gather with your team after the game to use their exclusive party room for your next gathering. Order online at HoosierHanks.com or give them a visit, 1285 South College Mall Road. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Man, my headphones are about to fucking die. They're not charging.
Oh, yeah? Do you have different ones?
Well, I'm going to switch back and forth.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Sir Todd.
What up? How we doing? Can you hear me all right?
Doing well. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
All right.
Excuse me. Happy tax day.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. That's fun.
What's up, man?
Not much. What's happening with you?
Oh, just dealing with one of these little Purdue pricks.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Oh, this one dude's been banging on me because Rick Bozich pointed out, he said, IU's worst team since 2011 lost to UConn, and Purdue lost, and their best team in at least 44 years lost to Purdue, but the only difference was 5 points. And I posted that, and there was two guys that just took it to extreme, and this one is, I'm over his shit now. He's getting ready to get the ban.
Hey, The more he talks, the better.
Oh, well, yeah, but
unless he's threatening to come kill you.
No.
I doubt he will.
This was back on Wednesday. I can't believe you're still dealing with those people.
But it's just one idiot.
What's our topics today?
Shoot.
Miles Rice committed.
Miles Rice.
Yeah, right.
Was he the pick of his stats have not knocked me off my chair.
What did you look at his last 7 games of shooting threes?
Did he light it up?
No. Ofer. He didn't make a 3 in the month of March.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, there you go. That's my point. I'm like going, man, somebody mentioned that. And I'm like,
how long do we have? We'll go
about 15 seconds.
I'll be right back.
All right, here we go.
Steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by MyJumpShot.com. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Monday, a beautiful Monday coming to you as well. And that means beautiful people like Todd Leary, the Todd Father, brought to you by MyJumpShot.com for all of you that know someone that needs to improve their jump shot. One way to do that. That's with Todd Leary at MyJumpShot.com. How's it going, man?
Man, it's awesome. How could you not wake up in a good mood on a Monday with this weather?
It's hard to do, especially when it was, is it less than 5 days ago? It was probably 40 degrees, but it's in southern Indiana. What would you expect?
40 degrees and windy and raining and everything else.
Yeah, it was. I started to wonder, man, is it ever going to get nice? And then, boom, it did. Did you get out and play any this weekend?
I did, actually. Of course I did. Took advantage of that. Now, it's really hard when the Masters is on because I literally, with that app, you can almost watch every second. And I'm a golf watching nerd when it comes to the majors. And I barely moved from watching that all weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't get into it this time for some reason, mainly because I was in a Masters pool and it like
and from the opening. Have Scotty Scheffler.
Well, I had him in one, I think, but I had nobody else that was up there, and it was kind of an unusual. It reminds you of one of the NCAA tournaments, the early rounds, where it's like, what's going on, man? These guys are. It's not a normal, but. Scotty Scheffler going back to back.
No, it wasn't back to back. John Rahm won last year, but he won 2 out of 3.
That's right. I had John Rahm last year. What am I thinking?
Yep. But I mean, the weather was so crazy on Thursday and Friday. Those first 2 rounds. I mean, it's. You're right. I mean, it's one of those where the guys, John Rahm and people like that are that good. I mean, they just really struggled. Rory, all those guys. But
Rory has never won a Masters. That's the one thing that, man, it's not in his in his repertoire. He just can't get that one.
The thing that's crazy about that though is like the guys who win the Masters over time. Like there's an outlier here and there, but the guys who win the Masters are the guys who drive the golf ball the best. Like the guys who lead in driving statistics on the PGA Tour are the guys who could pretty consistently win the Masters. And he is, over the last 25 years, the best driver of the golf ball on the planet. And that's the one major, if you'd have said going into his career, the one he'll win 5 times, it'd be that one. And that's the only one he hasn't won. That's what makes it so every single year until he's 50 years old, every single year going into the Masters, they are going to say that he's the favorite. And she should be.
Jared says the Masters this year was like Secretariat at the Derby. Knew he was going to win it, so it's parlaying the order of finish around him. Yeah, I didn't do a good job.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I did not do a good job of that. But lots of news in the world of basketball, of course, as it is that time where all the trades are happening before the trade deadline comes in.
Free agency.
Yeah, free agency, trade deadlines, all that good stuff. Indiana does land Miles Rice, who he was not that I know anything, but he was not at the top of my list of guys that they may want to land because of his numbers. And I'm still wondering is how that's going to work out, because what they need is a just pure knockdown shooter, and his numbers didn't jump out at me. I don't want to knock him because he could have been injured. Who knows? I don't know that. So, but it's
the way I looked at him. So I watched him play. I watched Washington State play one full game during the year, and it was probably back in mid-January, and he was 5 for 6 from the 3-point line. Like he was on fire. So when I saw that he had committed, I was extremely excited, and I still am. He's a great player, and you get him for multiple years, most likely. And I mean, I do think every guy we sign doesn't have to be the knockdown shooter. They need to be capable of making it. But I was more excited about his shooting ability before I looked up his stats than I am now, because he's really struggled to shoot the ball from the 3-point line, all in the entire month of March, basically. But the game I saw, he was unbelievable. I couldn't miss. And so when I saw that he signed, I thought, oh my gosh, not only is he a good guard, a decent sized guard, but he can knock down shots big time. And he's not quite the knockdown shooter that I thought, but I think he does show. Here's what I like, and this is how you'll know I have a shooter's mentality. Is his last game he was 0 for 6. Well, most guys once they're about 0 for 2, they quit shooting. And so he must be a decent shooter for the coach to allow him to continue to shoot to get to 0 for 6.
Yeah, hey, keep putting them up, man. Keep putting them up.
Yeah. I've always been a law of averages guy. They're going to go in eventually.
And the thing is, though, they have plenty of open spots. So this is not the last guy that they're going to land that is a guard, that is a shooter. There are more that they are looking at, that they have visiting, and so there's going to be somebody else. And maybe it's not necessarily his shooting that they're bringing him in for. I'm not in those meetings, so I don't know that. And there's no doubt there's going to be somebody else, maybe 2 other guys, because with the 6 openings, they filled 1. Of course, they're down to 5. But you also have Balo visiting right now, and the big man at 7 foot. So that even if that took 1, you still got 4 other spots that you can use that are wide open.
This is going to be my probably unpopular opinion, but I hope Balo doesn't come here. And I said this last week on the show. I said this last week on the show is we almost kind of want to force Coach Woodson's hand in not having too many big guys that are extremely capable, that you can't keep off the floor. I mean, Balo's a guy, if he's on your team, you have to play him because he's good. He's really good. But if he's on the floor, I actually think it might change the way Indiana plays from a roster standpoint, in that I think it obviously definitely moves Malik Renew to the 4 and Mbako to the 3 and Bryson Tucker to the 2 and Miles Rice to the 1. I mean, whereas I think a lot of people have been talking about playing a faster pace with Malik and I'll call them 4 and 5s, with Malik and Mbako being 4 and 5s, where that's probably not their real positions, but that's, it was interesting how they introduced teams during the NCAA tournament, because they kept introducing like 1 center and 4 guards with a lot of different teams. And so I think that's kind of how Indiana would be, 1 forward and 4 guards. But I don't know. It's hard to say you would want to turn down a player like Ballo. He's huge. Like, he's gigantic. He's big. Like, he's a monster. But he shoots under 50% from the free throw line. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of if the staff can develop him, then he's a great pick up. But I mean, you look at this, Jim, like the Bradshaw guy from Kentucky. Like, they're both big guys technically in the portal, but they're completely different kinds of big guys. One's a rim protecting, shot blocking, running the floor guy with Bradshaw, and Ballo is a slow it down, let me get down the floor, let me get in the post so you can throw it to me and I can plod my way for a basket, which I'm probably going to get or get fouled. And so it's 2 totally different types of teams that you would be on. And so I personally, doesn't mean I'm right, but I personally would rather have a Bradshaw kind of guy, a rim protector, a up and down the floor type team, rather than plodding up and down the court, waiting for your big guy to get down the court.
Yeah, because there's no way that if I'm guarding him, if I'm the coach guarding him, I'm foul the hell out of him. I don't like a guy who cannot shoot free throws that can't shoot free throws. And when you're under 50%, which is damn near impossible, I mean, you should be able to shut your eyes and hit 50% almost. And
if it was a grading scale, Jim, if it was a grading scale and you were, some guys miss free throws, but their form looks pretty good and they just probably don't have good touch and all that. That's one thing. That's not this guy's case. He shoots more free throws that hit the backboard first. I think I saw him miss one that missed wide right this year. Didn't even touch the rim. And I watched a lot of their games. I enjoyed watching them play, but he's a bad free throw shooter. Like, there's no getting around. He's one of those guys, you saw the guy in the tournament this year, I think from Alabama, that shoots the one-handed free throw. Like, I'd almost get Ballo to start shooting under anything, like the old 2-hand granny ball. He could be worse. You could not be worse than what he is. That's not possible.
Could myjumpshot.com help him?
Yeah, I mean,
or is he beyond repair?
No. That's almost laughable to say, because you could help him. Like, not to be a jerk about it, but I mean, anybody could help this guy get better. If they would just work on it, he's going to get better. Like, you can't shoot, you can't practice free throws. I don't care what your form is, and not get better at it with some repetition. Now, he could clearly fix a couple of things and be better. Yes, myjumpshot.com would definitely help him out.
And especially with the fact that Indiana has been a very, very poor free throw shooting team overall. I don't know that adding someone who is even going to.
You're allowed to say that. Worse. You're allowed to say that when they're last in the Big Ten. You're fully allowed to go ahead and say that.
And that's not going to help matters when you're already bad.
Right. Yeah. No, it's that. I mean, let's look at this. This is crazy to say, but I mean, 1 week ago, right now, when you and I are sitting here doing the show, the national championship game hadn't even taken place yet. It seems like it was a month ago now already. But usually when that game's over, us nerds as basketball fans, our season's kind of like we're in hiding for a while from a TV standpoint. There's nothing to watch. Like, there's nothing to do. And that's not the case anymore. With the portal, it's almost like every day I'm looking at my phone to see what the new news is, like what's going on, who's going where, like not just for Indiana, like, I mean, Mark Pope going to Kentucky, like all the different things going on. Like, it's just so interesting to look and see the landscape of basketball and how it's changed so much. But you have the ability to kind of pick, like it is free agency. You have seen these guys play. This is hard to say, because my version of what I want Indiana to be and Mike Woodson's, I'm just going to say, are not not parallel. Like we don't like. He likes a slower, throw it in the paint type game. And as a college basketball fan, I kind of enjoy more of the up and down. I think UConn. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I think UConn is a good example this year because the thing I thought about Danny Hurley that I thought he did the best job of was, I'll use the Secretariat reference that we had earlier, is he rode the horse that was working for him. And so he was not afraid to put the big guy Klingon on the bench for an extended period of time, even when he didn't have foul trouble. If their team was playing well, like the Johnson guy, I think was his name, that came in off the bench, the center that was more of the alley-oop dunk kind of guy, when they had things going well, even in the national championship game, Klingon didn't have foul trouble, but they left him on the bench because that was working. Going up and down the court, putting Edey in a tough position. And it wasn't just that game. It was multiple games throughout the season. I thought he did a good job of going with using what was working for the team at the time. And I think that's something a lot of coaches don't do, and that they kind of go back into the old Coach Knight of, this is my team and this is the way I'm going to play, and we're going to play this way and it's going to win. And when it's working, it's great. But when it's not working, it's not great and it's not fun to watch. And I just don't want this team to be a plodding it down the court, trying to win 60-55 kind of team.
Yeah, I'd wondered if Woodson, I hate to use the term, had learned over his first couple of years at coaching in college.
Adjusted. Let's say adjusted.
There you go. That's a perfect word. But now I'm starting to wonder, did he learn to make that adjustment? Because you have to have someone, no matter if you put Renew at the 5 or not, which I don't know he's going to be there, but because of his penchant for running into foul trouble. But I can't. You're not going to bring a Ballo in and put him on the bench. I wouldn't think, and then that means, well, I know damn well he's not going to put Renew on the bench because we've seen he doesn't do that. He doesn't bench guys that he has had a successful run with. So now,
and we don't want him to bench him, and we don't want him to bench him. But we want this team to be, fluent up and down the court, like making plays. Like Indiana last year, this was the one knock I had on Purdue throughout the entire season, is unless you call Edey's baskets easy baskets, which a lot of times they are because he's just bigger than everybody else, but they didn't get no one else on the floor, I'll put it this way, no one else on the floor got easy baskets. And the teams that typically win games and go on runs and win 5, 6, 7 games in a row are teams that are winning the fast break points and getting easy baskets. And whether that's putting a team at the free throw line or whatever it might be, like they get down the court and get some easy baskets. Well, Purdue never did that because they were almost always waiting for Edey to get down the court. And I don't want us to become that. I don't want us to not get any easy baskets because that's where I think we're at our best. Trey Galloway's not a great shooter at this point, so we need him to get in transition. Mbako is better when he's playing in transition. I think Renew's better when he's playing in transition. With his back to the basket, if he's got time and they don't double team, he's very capable. I mean, he's one of the best in the country at making a move and getting a basket. But teams have proven it's very easy to take that away. Even Nebraska, obviously, they just go double team, get the ball out of his hands, and that's how they beat him. But I want this team to be up and down the court. That's really my whole goal.
I think a lot of people did, and I think that if you watched through the tournament, you saw how successful that was. Hell, it was successful out for Alabama. It just wasn't. They just weren't as good as UConn. They didn't have a Donovan Klingon, who is athletic, and that was to me the gigantic difference. And Indiana is going to have to. Someone just mentioned Derek that they need Indiana needs a rim protector. But you need one that is athletic and that can move and that can guard. Klingon can go out to the perimeter if he had to and guard a big, but he didn't have to worry about that with Edey because Edey wasn't leaving the paint area. So, but to me, you've got to have a guy that is adjustable to that situation, and
I agree.
That's not Ballo.
Yeah, it's not, in my opinion, unless they are planning on changing Renew. And I'll tell you this: Renew, if he plays in the NBA, is going to be more of a 3/4, or definitely an undersized 4, an under athletic ability 4. And so maybe the sell to Malik was, hey, look, we're going to play you more up and down the court, out on the wing. We're going to get you facing the basket versus your back to the basket more. Maybe it was. I don't know. But if you're going to get a Ballo, you definitely need Renew playing more with his facing the basket versus his back to the basket.
And something to mention, Trey Jackson-Davis just set an Indiana record in the NBA for former Hoosiers with a 70.2% field goal percent shooting. And his athletic ability, he doesn't have a long range jump shot,
stupid shot,
but it's his athletic ability and his ability to run. You know, go right ahead. You're nodding your head already.
He's got more of an NBA game than a college game, in that the roll into the baskets, like that 70% stat. I love Trace Jackson-Davis. Don't take this as a negative comment, but that's very few jump shots. That's almost all dunks and finishes right at the rim. And so I think 4 or 5 years from now, he'll have a 17-foot knockdown bank jump shot like Karl Malone developed, who didn't have when he got into the league. And I think he'll have a long, good career. He's had a great system, great program with Golden State. But that stat of 70% shooting is that's idiotic, because they're all dunks. Like, it should be 90%. Like, I'm surprised it's not higher.
Let's take a quick break. We've got Todd Leary, the Todd father, with us. Up next, Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star will join the conversation. We've got plenty more coming. MyJumpShot.com. For those of you, you have somebody who needs to work on their jump shot, whether it's an elementary kid, high school, college, whatever. Just go to MyJumpShot.com. We're back with more with Todd Leary and Dustin Dopirak right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home...
Morning, you guys.
Hey, brother, how are you?
What's happening? Todd, Jim, John, everybody.
Hello.
How's life been for you?
Oh, interesting. Because up until yesterday, I didn't know where I was going to go for next weekend. And now don't know. Know when they're starting. Don't have a schedule yet. But they're in, and dragged it out to the last day because that's how they roll.
That's what they do.
Did they end up in the sixth spot?
Was that the sixth spot? Yeah, they needed to beat Atlanta yesterday, and they hung 157 on them. Atlanta can't defend Atlanta can't defend them at all. But
sounds like Todd in rec league.
Damn.
Boy, I was hot last week. You're right. I was hot.
Nice.
Just ask me, I'll tell you. Hey, Jim, I meant to text you this earlier. I got to go. I got a family deal I got to handle here.
No worries.
So, all right. I'll talk to you
We'll do it
later.
again next week.
Have a good one.
Yeah, for sure. I can stay on as long next time. This week I got to go do something.
No worries, brother. Thank you.
Yep. See it.
How are you doing, brother? How was your weekend?
It was all basketball. It was mostly basketball.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So they were in Cleveland on Friday, so I drove back Saturday. And yeah, then they played again Sunday afternoon and played, spent all day yesterday writing. So, and in between, you'll get a kick out of this. So this is apparently apparently it's a new thing. Friends of ours are having a baby, and they there's a new sort of deal called basically there's a party for the guy, but it's like you just bring diapers and then you have a party of some kind. So we had a blackjack tournament. Like, this was a good time. You just show up with diapers. There's alcohol, there's food and beer, and we played blackjack. And like we didn't put real money on it, but we had like a tournament, whatever. I got third. I was pretty proud of myself.
Put diapers on it.
What's that?
You bet diapers instead of money.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I mean, that's your buy-in, basically. So like,
that's
to get in the game, you had to bring a box of diapers, basically, and so it's I mean, first off, it's great because like guys don't have to think, like about anything about what they're bringing to the situation. It's not like a baby shower that we're like women have to like consider this, like, okay, what did you buy? What did you buy? Like get to go to the registry. They're like, you have a very basic, mission, like go to the
10
store,
seconds, guys.
So
here we go.
3 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by the Autograph app. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by the Autograph app. Autograph is where real fans get unreal rewards. The first app to track and reward fans for loving what they love most, turning passion into access and experiences. Download the Autograph app today, right now, as a matter of fact, in either Apple or Google Play stores. Autograph, where unhinged fandom meets unreal rewards. Just use the link that we have, link.ag.fan /ISB Media. Make sure you use the ISB Media code there to get your rewards, especially. On now, we've got the man, Dustin Dopirak, who has been a busy man as the Pacers heading down the playoff run, trying to keep out of that play-in game, and they did just that. And talking in the break, he said he had no idea where he was going, when he was going, because the NBA likes to keep all that stuff tight to the pocket. But it's kind of loosening up now. Good to see that they're able to stay above that quote-unquote Mendoza line, Dustin.
Yeah, no, obviously just big for them to be in a playoff series. I mean, this was the goal for them all season long, is to get in the playoffs, to get that experience, to take this step, basically. And, Rick Carlisle's just been talking about all year about getting these guys in, competitive situations, to like sort of create the feel about, where they're about what it's like. And I think that's a really big point. Like you see how teams build and the steps they take, and you got to get in there first. Like you got to get in there, you got to get beat, you got to take your lumps. You got to find out how high the level is, how sort of tight the margin for error is. And once you've had that experience, then you have a chance to advance. I mean, like that. Maybe they can win a series. Even if they don't. I think, you have to say the season has been a success just because they got to there. They're going to get to experience this. They're going to play a team in Milwaukee that they've beat 4 times out of 5. So I'd be surprised if the table gets run on them, especially as Giannis is dealing with the calf strain. He missed the last 3 games. Don't know if he's going to be available for game 1 on Sunday. And don't know how much of the series he's going to play. And so they have a chance to win some games in this, but whatever happens, they're going to get into that environment and, basically just be reminded of what it takes to be a playoff team. So anything that happens is big. I mean, like obviously, the play-in would have provided some of that, but if they would have washed out somehow in a play-in, even if they were a 7 and washed out, that cost you something. Obviously there's competitive situations there, and that would have been, better to be in it than not be in it at all. But, I think that they just wanted to get to a series and experience the whole of that. And they got there, and they've been an odd team in the sense that, they've had some ups, they've had some downs, they lost some games they had no business losing, lost some tight ones at the end where they didn't really execute as well as they needed to. But they get across the board here, and now they're dangerous. I mean, they have the best, highest scoring offense in the NBA, the second most efficient offense in the NBA. They lead the league in field goal percentage, points in the paint. I mean, they're a dangerous team, and they're particularly dangerous for Milwaukee. And, Milwaukee is teetering a little bit. And so they go in with a real puncher's chance at least winning the first playoff series. And they're in the bottom half of the bracket. I mean, the Knicks aren't a team that they can't beat either. The 76ers aren't a team that they can't beat. They've got winning records against everybody that could end up in their half of the bracket. And so you avoid Boston until at least the conference finals. So they're in a really good place.
Yeah, looking forward to now the next step. What can they do in the playoffs with are they completely healthy? Are they playing at a level that you just mentioned they hung 157 points, so that engine's running pretty good at there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Atlanta has been a team that they've been able to run over all year. I mean, I think it's just a schematic thing that the Hawks sort of play into their strengths more or less. And the Hawks were missing a couple guys. Obviously, everybody approached the last game of the season differently depending on where you stood. And the Hawks were in a situation where they were locked into the play-in game already. They gave Clint Capella a rest, so that's their best shot blocker in the middle, and the Pacers just attacked the middle on pick and roll. And they got 80 points in the paint. I mean, that's just a nutty, crazy number, even for an NBA game. And so, they're not that good right now. Like they're not going to go in and hang 150 on the Bucks. That's not going to happen. But they can hang 120 something, 130 on the Bucks. The Bucks aren't a great defensive team. So, I think they look pretty good. Obviously, Ben Matherin's been out for the year with the shoulder injury. So that obviously cost them a significant weapon, but they've been without him since early March, since he separated the shoulder out in Dallas, or was it late February? They're all running together now. But whenever the game was in Dallas, I think it was March. It was after San Antonio. So I think that was early March. But so they're about as healthy as they're going to get. I mean, they had 3 guys questionable on the injury report on Sunday, and all of them played. That was Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson were all Jackson didn't play. But they are pretty healthy. Basically they're about as healthy as they're going to be, going into it. So, they're operating at a pretty good clip. I mean, I think, again, I don't think the offense is as good as it was when they had Buddy Hield, and they had some of the shooting, but still, I mean, they've got in Siakam, they have a real number 2 offensive option, who really has been the number 1 offensive option. He's been more consistent than Tyrese Halliburton has. Miles Turner really comes into this on a roll, was terrific yesterday, 31 points. I think it was 13 of 17 shooting, 3 of 4 from 3, but really got to the rim really well on the pick and roll stuff. And Halliburton is coming along. I mean, I think you're not seeing him at the height of his powers, but the 3 ball's going in again. He was 0 for 4 yesterday, but he's been hitting threes. I think he had 4 of the Pacers' 9 threes on Friday night. Basically, like the shot's back. I think he's making some really smart decisions. Again, like you're not seeing him at peak Halliburton like you saw him in December, but still, I mean, he's playing pretty well. TJ McConnell's been fantastic off the bench, just absolutely phenomenal. Obi Toppin has done a really good job of finishing stuff. So they come in on a pretty good, just playing pretty well. Thought defensively they really stepped it up yesterday in the second half. Had a bad first half, but held them to 43 in the second half. A lot of things are clicking pretty well, and they're playing a Milwaukee team that, again, does not look great. They had a game that they probably should win, or they had a chance to win on Sunday, and gave it away to Orlando. And as Jared says here, the Pacers did beat Milwaukee 4-1 in the regular season. Obviously, they haven't played them since January 3rd. So they're 2 different teams now. I mean, the Pacers will add Siakam, traded away Heel and Brown, lost Matherin. So they're a different team. Bucks have a new coach since then. Basically what they made the decision to change from Adrian Griffin to Doc Rivers. So it's 2 very, very different teams since then. I think Milwaukee's obviously pretty motivated. I mean, they went and got out and got Lillard in the offseason, and they go into the playoffs believing like, hey, they've got to at least get to the finals to feel like this was a successful season. But, they haven't been going in the right direction recently. So the Pacers have a chance, I think, to knock them off.
And this is the best the Pacers have looked going into the playoffs for it's a while.
They haven't been in a long time. Yeah, I mean, it's it's the first time since the COVID bubble year that they're going to be in a playoff series in the first place. So that's 4 years to start with. You go back to 2018-19 was the last time they've had a normal one where they're going to have home games, and play at home sites, and again not be in the bubble. So it's different. I think really you got to go back to, I think, the 2017-2018 team to go the last time that they had this kind of momentum. And I think that was the year that they had Oladipo, and Oladipo was playing at a really high level, and I think they went to 7 games against LeBron's Cleveland team in the first round, and really made that interesting, and made really made that Cleveland team sweat. big time. And so, LeBron ended up turning it up a notch and then, rolling all the way to the finals again. But still, that was the last team that really, came in looking dangerous. So it has been a while that the Pacers have had this much reason for optimism, and you add to the fact that the Eastern Conference is very flawed. I mean, outside of the Celtics, it tells you something that the Boston won by, what was their final tally here? 14 games? Yeah, 14 games. The Celtics won the East by 14 games. One other team, the Knicks is the only other team that got to 50 wins this season, and they got to exactly 50. So, you look at that and say, these are a bunch of teams that are gettable, that you can beat. If they advance and then, now everybody's a little bit dangerous. You look at the Knicks, they look pretty good. OG Anunoby came back. That adds a lot to what they can do. The 76ers get Joel Embiid back, and they've got some serious momentum. So that Knicks, presume if the Sixers beat the Heat in the first play-in game and you get Knicks Sixers in the first round, that is a really good looking playoff series. But the Pacers took 2 out of 3 from each of those teams. So, they have every reason to believe that that they can be dangerous. They can win 1 round, and maybe they can even win 2.
I know it's a different sport, but I wonder if they could pick up Chad Powers before the playoffs. Yeah,
that'll change some things. I'm sure Chad can shoot.
Think fast, run fast, baby. He can get up down the floor. But yeah, the Pacers are young, and this has to be for Pacer fans, for the Pacer organization, just great to see, because like you just said, getting in and still getting above the play-in games. This is good news, because hopefully this is something that they're going to grow.
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, it's still a young team. I mean, they are a little bit more experienced than they playoff wise than they were when they started the year. Obviously, when they added Siakam, they got a guy who's now 30. And I think he's 30, or at least he's close. Has won a final, has won a championship, has won a ring, and knows what that's like. Turner's obviously been there. McConnell has been to playoffs. But Halliburton's never been. I mean, Halliburton's first playoff game is cool for him. He's from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, so his first playoff game is going to be Milwaukee. That's kind of storybook for him. Andrew Nembhard's never been there. Aaron Nesmith and Jalen Smith have been to finals with Boston and with Phoenix, but those guys didn't have big roles on those teams. They were basically coming in mop-up time. Mathurin hasn't been there. Obviously, he doesn't get to play, but at least he'll be around it. I'm trying to think of some other guys that are important in this case. Obi Toppin, has been a rotation guy for the Knicks, but got eliminated relatively early, but they're going to get to experience this together, and it's going to be very, very valuable for them going forward. Whatever happens, whatever transpires here in the next couple of weeks. I mean, again, I have a hard time imagining they could go the distance and get past Boston, and I presume Boston's going to win the East. But that doesn't mean they can't make some noise, and if they can make some noise, then that's something that they can absolutely build on and sort of say, hey, this is what we have, how much further we need to go. And it also tells both the players that the team itself what it needs to be better at, and it also tells the organization what it needs to go get. And so this is going to be basically give the Pacers a lot of answers that they need to move forward.
Dustin Dopirak with Indy Stars with us. We've got a little more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Autograph app. Make sure you download that today. Just go to either Google or your Apple store. Autograph is where real fans get unreal rewards. Use the ISB media code for that, please. Back with more basketball chat right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All
right.
Yo. What's happening with you, John?
I tell you what, down in my neck of the woods has been crazy for the past really month, because we've had the Louisville coaching change. We just had the UK coaching change. And I mean, it's been fun to see it play out, to be honest. But I don't think either team thought they were going to get the coaches that they got. Yeah, no, I mean, it seemed like the reception for Mark Pope went well yesterday, but Kentucky's disappointed. Oh, yeah. It's one of those things. Honestly, it's very similar to
Woodson.
to Woodson. Yeah, with the way fans were disappointed at first, and they realized, you know what, we got to give him a chance. But here's the thing, though: the leash for Mark Pope will be even shorter than the leash for Mike Woodson.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
The moment that he shows signs of failure, I mean, it's going to stink for whether it's Mitch Barnhart or an athletic director after that. It's going to stink whoever ends up having to let him go if it doesn't work out.
No, 100%. And like the difference is, like, for Kentucky, like Indiana had made, some like, I don't want to say okay hires because they're like anybody who's like watching this part now is going to kill me to say like Tom Crean or okay hires, but like from a look at the landscape, like how did it hit in the moment as far as how it was viewed? It's like, well, you got a successful mid-major guy in Archie or high mid-major A10 guy. Tom Crean had been to a Final Four, stuff like that. Like, but those weren't like, oh my God, I can't believe I can't believe they got him hires, but like. When Kentucky got Calipari, that was like, that was a huge, massive deal.
Yes.
I mean, like that was the most big name vein coach available, for like the big, ritzy job. And so like Kentucky figured like, okay, like, well, we can have whoever John Calipari is now, like basically like we can get that equivalent. And then when they had to take a couple no's, it was like, wait a minute, we're in a totally different place. And like Indiana, I think knew they were in this place by this point that like, making the splash was going to be hard. And, like they go after Stevens and it was like, that was, like swing for the fences. But I think everybody had a sense that like, all right, like that's unlikely. It's worth a shot, but it's unlikely. And when you miss, it's like, okay, well, all right, well, this is a reasonable second choice. Like I think Kentucky was like, well, we should offer it to everybody good first. If we can't get Dan Hurley, well, I don't know, try to get Coach K out of retirement. Like we're Kentucky, why not? Like,
all right, here we go, guys. 10 seconds.
Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. I hope you're doing well and about to enjoy this incredible looking day that we're going to have. Wow, it's here, baby. Spring is here. The April showers have given away towards Mayflowers. We're not quite there, but
that's way too much optimism, Jim. Tone it down.
Hey, it's not 40 degrees outside.
Today is going to be very nice. Tomorrow could be something totally different. Just enjoy today while it's here.
I forgot where I was, so you are correct.
Yeah, remind yourself. Yeah, it's not. This doesn't mean it's going to stay this way.
But it's better than 40 degrees. I was so sick and tired of. We had a solid week of rain and 50-degree weather. It was like
general misery. Yep. I think you had something. I had something. I think it was like. I had a sinus infection, which just adding to it. It was great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it was miserable. Yeah. But past it all now, baby. The spring is here, but there's still so much basketball going on. We just finished talking about the beginning of the NBA playoffs. What's that? That could last into October. Who knows?
It does end in June. They do have set times for that. We don't know the playoff schedule yet, but it will end. Game 7, I think, is set for June 22nd, somewhere in that range of the NBA Finals. So, like that, they have together already, like when it's supposed to end. And the draft, I think, is the 27th, somewhere in that range. So,
it's hard to imagine that it lasts that long.
It's wild. I mean, they squeeze every last inch of it from April to June. And take their time to make sure they get everybody in them TV windows, man. Don't want anybody standing on top of each other. Want to make sure every game gets its due, which at the end of the day is good. Like at the end of the day, like as a consumer, you have the opportunity to watch, as many NBA games, NBA playoff games as you want. They're not stacked on each other. You don't have to make a choice for the most part. I mean, there are some games that, bleed over in the first round. But especially once you get to semis, like everybody gets their own pocket. So you know.
We talked about Caitlin Clark for a minute earlier. That's news as well. Part of the Pacers organization, the Indiana Fever.
Sure.
That the draft pick about to happen. It would suck to be a women's player because you go right from the college game to the draft to the season, and it's like, whoo, no time to take a breath.
And not only that, it's like camp. The thing about, I mean, like, you know, the thing that everybody doesn't realize about the WNBA, if you don't follow it closely, is there are not a lot of spots. You know, like it's a 12-team league. There's 12 players on a team. There's 144 in the league. You know, like that is tight. It is hard to make the WNBA. It is very, very hard. Like, not that it's not hard in the NBA, but like you're talking more than double as many spots. Well over double as many spots are available. And so, you know, like obviously Caitlin Clark, I promise Caitlin Clark's making the team. Like, I think we can go out and say that with a fair amount of confidence. But I mean, the Fever were not a very good team last year, and they had players get cut that were like really, really good, you know, that stood out as college players. I mean, Tyler Mikesell was this, I thought, a fantastic player at Ohio State. And so you know, before our reporter, we hired Chloe Peterson. I think she started right around the opener. But she had just graduated from Iowa, I think. Yeah, she just graduated from Iowa. So we had to wait until she, you know, could start. And so I had Fever camp last year, and I got, you know, I think the first couple, you know, first preseason game or two before Caitlin came on board. So Chloe came on board, and you know, got to see like who basically is how tight of a competition it was for the last spots. And I mean, Tyler Mikesell didn't miss anything, and she didn't make the team because I mean they were really, you know, pushing defense, but like they had to cut really good players, you know, last season to make, you know, a team that didn't end up finishing that high. So it is not easy. I mean, that tells you what it's like at the higher levels. And so, yeah, they have to go basically right from, you know, college season to the draft to a camp where they really have to go all out just to make it. And then there's the season. You know, basically you don't have a breath until September to, you know, get your feet set on the floor. So yeah, it's not easy. I mean, like similarities in baseball, you know, where obviously you start, I mean, they've changed things around a little bit, but obviously, I mean, you start your, you know, your college baseball season, you know, you're practicing in January, you know, when you get back from the semester break, season starts February 15th. You know, it used to be you'd get drafted in June and you'd go to either, you know, rookie league or short season A-ball in June, and then you're rolling all the way to September. And so those were a grind, and you know, WNBA is pretty similar. It's not an easy deal. But you know, Fever get a chance to really launch themselves here. I mean, they've been struggling since Tamika Catchings retired, you know, to really put a really good team together. I mean, and they've had some high draft picks that worked out okay, but you know, didn't turn the tide. But you go back-to-back number one overalls with Aaliyah Boston last year and Caitlin Clark this year, you know, gives them a real chance to ascend. And obviously, I mean, they're going to get an absurd amount of attention. You know, like it's been easy to get Fever tickets. My wife really likes to go, you know, so we usually get to at least a game or two a year. And she obviously covered them at the Athletic, you know, as a freelancer a couple of years back. So we've made a point to go see them. And it's usually pretty easy to get tickets. Not going to be easy to get tickets this year. Not going to be easy at all.
Yes, I was speaking of the weather a moment ago, and Bob, who lives down in Georgetown in southern Indiana, pointing out that this weekend is thunder over Louisville. And if you live in the area, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, it is the North America's largest fireworks show that kicks off the 2-week Kentucky Derby Festival. But it's going to be 57 degrees. So there you go.
Yeah.
But they got all those fireworks to keep them warm.
There you go. Yeah, it's pyro. There you go.
That works because I was at the concert over the weekend at IU's Memorial Stadium, in which Clayton Anderson and Jesse Murph, John Party, and Kane Brown were at. But when they would fire when the fire would go up, and I was a good distance back, you could still feel that. That always blows my mind with things that are going up, but you could still feel that so far back.
Oh yeah. They had pyro, like they have a lot of pyro in Cleveland. It gets seriously hot in there. And like, I'm not surprised, like going back, I mean, I feel like one of the great legacies of the Fred Glass Athletic Administration is a true belief in pyrotechnics. As I used to say all the time, Fred Glass loves him some fireworks. Scott Dolson also likes him some fireworks. So I've noticed that really since then they have believed in using, pyro in Memorial Stadium. So it is always, and basically when they use an assembly hall, it does singe your eyebrows. I mean, they don't mess around in there. So like the pyrotechnic budget definitely went up over the last two administrations, and you do feel it. That's for sure.
It was a better crowd than I thought was going to be out there. I'll be honest with you. I don't know why I didn't think it was going to be.
I'm not shocked. Clayton Anderson's their guy down there, man.
Oh yeah, and the other three as well. It was a fun time, and I'm wondering why they don't do that more often.
It's your question. Probably needed to just sort of, break the seal on it and just do it. I guess
that was the only second time since Mellencamp did it in like '86.
I know football stadiums. It's not like there are issues there, in terms of field and everything like that. But I mean, you get it out of the way now, it's a lot more doable, like in spring and everything like that. Like, I mean, for instance, like I know at Penn State, like, the Bryce Jordan Center was built in large part because Joe Paterno said no concerts at Beaver Stadium ever. It was like basically like a hard no. And they built, rather than staying in Rec Hall, a big reason why they built the Bryce Jordan Center was they could have concerts, and they do. I mean, that's where the biggest state college shows are by far. And they get, they get arena shows, and so like that's always been the biggest draw events for Bryce Jordan Center. They have obviously a hard time packing that joint for basketball games, but they've always been able to bring people in. And so, like that part of that was so that they never had to, nobody was ever asking whether they could use Beaver Stadium because it was a hard no.
Yeah. And let's see, Boogie Flan, one of the names that fall out of Kentucky, which I know that you don't have time to follow all that right now, but he was one of the big names. One of the names Indiana was close to getting, but now he signed with Kentucky. He's asked for their release. I would be shocked if he doesn't end up at Arkansas. Man, They got all that chicken money down there at Arkansas, and I think that apparently they want to upgrade their basketball program because the SEC has – as a conference has kind of upgraded when Alabama's kind of got it rolling. Hell, they just made the Final Four. Auburn, Tennessee. It's not Kentucky and the rest anymore.
Right. No, I mean, and Arkansas too. I mean, like over the last, I don't know how, like, I don't think they had a great year this year, but I mean, like Musselman did a really good job of, just bringing that program back and making it relevant again. I mean, like, I'm having to remind myself just where they've been in the tournament over the last couple of years. So I'm like calling up Basketball Reference as we're talking. But what is it here? So, I mean, like, obviously, 2 Elite Eights there in 21 and 22, obviously in the bubble tournament up here, they were an Elite Eight team. Elite Eight team again, Sweet 16 last year. Didn't have as good a year this year. We're 16 and 17, so they had to drop off. But Arkansas mattered again over those previous 3 years. So obviously, Musselman moves on. They swing big with Calipari, and they're going to have a chance to be in there. But yeah, no, I mean, I think the SEC looks around. It's been a wash in just football money for years, and now that you have the opportunity to use NIL, use that for something beyond. They obviously had. Some of them have upgraded facilities, but now they have something to really use that money on and go get players, basically. So there is obviously real opportunity for the SEC to move up in basketball. You're going to add Texas and Oklahoma to that scenario. Like there is real chance for a lot of teams in the league to swing big, and so Arkansas obviously did it. They said, hey, we've got this kind of opportunity that you're going to have if we bring you in Calipari, and it certainly changes things. And so, and again, it's not just going to be Cal, like you said. I mean, there's going to be a lot of other teams. Tennessee has become a really solid, program under Rick Barnes. Made a significant leap to get to the Elite Eight this year. There's a lot of other teams in that league that are going to matter. And so, yeah, I mean, Calipari certainly. You presume that they're going to get better. That he's going to get a lot of the guys that he usually gets, and he can continue to point to whatever you say about where Kentucky's finished. here's where all, these players are. I mean, you look back, obviously, you look at a 14-15 team as not having finished up and gone the distance, but that team that was undefeated until it got beat in the Final Four has guys that are all NBA caliber players, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, guys that are still in the league and still matter, almost 10 years out. So, they are going to be able to look and say, De'Aaron Fox, like this long list of guys that came from Kentucky, Tyrese Maxey, more than any one school, really Kentucky and Duke are the two, college programs that are the most shaping the NBA right now in terms of who matters. So, he can still make that sell, and he'll be able to make it to sell it in Arkansas. And, does that mean they'll win a tournament? They'll win a championship? Who knows? But, they're certainly going to be relevant. They're certainly going to get players.
And there's always talk of who's where in NIL. Here's, this is one that Louisville says they're 27th in NIL, or IU is 67th, which I found absolutely absurd. There's no way that that's accurate. But then I got to thinking, well, I wonder if they'll end up having to put a salary cap, but that would be ignorant because they can still just go to quote unquote outside sources for revenue to generate to work, like Caitlin Clark, who's got all the State Farm deals. Hell, that's where most of her money is going to come from. State Farm. It's not going to come from the Fever.
Yeah, no, I mean, but she's going to have massive deals. I mean, absolutely humongous as far as that's concerned. And so, yeah, no, I mean, I think obviously nobody knows how to regulate this thing still. Nobody has a real sense of how to make this work. And that's why, they're having hearings in Congress to try to even begin to have a sense. And obviously we could have a whole conversation about what chance there is for anything making its way through Congress, considering everything. But, yeah, it's because you have all kinds of possibilities for how this thing could go. Obviously, they could determine. Yes, Justin, Maxine is asleep. She's actually right here. That's a Maxine.
Under the blanket, even.
Yeah, no, she is living the life of luxury as she does. But yeah, no, I think that's going to be the difficult thing for the NCAA in general, is figuring out, are they going to be employees? Once you've taken this step to where they're getting paid, what other do you have to go the distance and make them college employees? Do they have to, can you have a salary cap within there? Are you going to do revenue sharing? Nick Saban has obviously thrown out that possibility. So, I think everybody's looking at all options, but I don't imagine they're going to move fast on any of them because there's not really a, machine, a vehicle that gets you there in terms of, just being able to sit down and say, okay, what do we want to do here? Let's make a real determination on what college sports should be and how it should fit in the overall American educational landscape. What are we doing with this? And no one's coming to answers. Everybody's having hearings and nobody's coming to answers because we're just not in a place as a country that we're, that we can sit down and come to solutions when it comes to things like this. So we're going to drift along, and there's going to be just chaos for at least a few more years until anybody gets a sense of how to get a handle on this.
Absolutely. What's up next for you, brother?
Hopefully find out soon exactly what the playoff schedule looks like, but they're playing Sunday in Milwaukee, getting rolling there, go game 1 and 2 in Milwaukee, come back for 3 and 4 in Indiana, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Should be a lot of fun to see how that goes.
Yeah, is the Pacers' success over the Bucks going into the playoffs a good sign, or is that just thrown out the window?
I mean, it's mostly thrown out the window, but the fact that they've beat them before, they're not going in and seeing this colossus that they can't touch. They know they've beat these guys, and it's a different game. Obviously, in the playoffs, everybody's going to function differently. The Bucks will step their game up, but one, you don't know if Giannis is healthy, and that makes a huge difference. Obviously, if Giannis can't play, you got to beat Milwaukee. You've got to. If he's not there, if he's well sub 100%, obviously, I mean, that guy's just an incredible force. And so if he is playing, they're a tough out. They're a tough out. But I mean, but again, the fact that they know what it's like to beat them, the fact that they've done it, they don't go in feeling like we can't do this. You know, like that's the biggest thing is like, it doesn't mean that you will, but you know, when you go into a playoff series, having beat somebody, know what it's like to beat them, know what it takes to beat them. And just knowing that you can, it has a different level of, you know, confidence than if you go against somebody that, you know, whooped you 4 times, you know, like it's certainly they come in with confidence, not feeling like this is something we can't do. It's like, hey, this is the guys we wanted. You know, we beat them 4 out of 5. We can take these dudes. And so that matters. You know, doesn't guarantee anything, but it matters.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Dustin Dopirak, make sure you're giving them a follow and keeping up what is happening with the Pacers in the NBA playoffs as they are set to begin. Thank you, my brother. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys.
You betcha. Have a good one. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio as Travis Miller from Boiler Upload will be joining us. Brought to you by our good friends from RE/MAX Realty, Cheryl Sizemore. You need her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with Travis right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly Oh, hello, sir.
Morning, sir. How you doing?
Oh, you know it. It's Monday. It had to happen somewhere.
Yeah, rarely does it skip Sunday to Tuesday. I think the last time that might have happened was when the Russians flipped from the Gregorian or from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar during World War One.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get one of those every 4 years or something at least.
That was a deep cut right there. It's now World War One, World War II historical hour.
Hey, I watch all of those things.
That was actually my minor in school was history, so I love it.
College top 20. Oh, that must be for football. What's new in West Lafayette?
Not a whole lot. We're pretty much in off-season mode, although baseball is kind of exciting. They absolutely thumped Michigan State this weekend, 42-3 across 3 games.
Damn.
Yeah, I know, right?
Indiana was supposed to be good this year, and they're just like,
weren't they in the top 25 briefly?
Yeah,
very beginning.
Well, they were supposed to be good. They had lots of talent coming back, and it's like, what the hell?
Now they're just 4 games over 500, I think.
If that, yeah, they're just like 500. Yeah, it's and I think they lost the series this weekend.
No, they beat Penn State this weekend. They
did.
Yep.
Yeah, they are 5th in the Big Ten right now. The Big Ten the standings are always so weird because you've got one team off every week since there's no program at Wisconsin.
That's so weird.
It's like
that'll change next year when you bring in the Pac-12 schools, I guess.
Well, then it'll be 17 because all 4 of them have a program and Wisconsin still doesn't have one. So
you still probably wouldn't. Well, I don't know. That'll be weird.
Yeah, because if you got 17, that means one team is off on the schedule every week.
That's
like
true.
Next week,
That's
Purdue
true.
is hosting East Tennessee State.
All right, here we go, guys.
90 days. That's right. 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMoreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, getting your week started. I hope it was a good one for you over the weekend and you're ready for the back half of April. and ready for the tax man because that's today also. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us, and it is now the college football or basketball season, of course, is over, and the new season begins, recruiting. Purdue does not have to worry about that much because they have 6 freshmen coming in, which in this day and age, that sounds pretty antiquated, but that is the Purdue way and Matt Painter's way. But I have to ask, man, it seems like that is going to get more and more difficult to be able to do that as more teams are bringing in guys that are experienced, that are filling holes that they need better. I know Matt is still, he's got his way that he wants to do it, and he's the players that are coming in are good players, but a lot of those guys, it's going to take a minute to develop. And I'm not sure the Purdue fans still think that that's the way that it's going to go.
I tend to think so. Painter's never really been huge on using the portal, at least so far. He might bring in one guy a year, like a Lance Jones or a David Jenkins Jr. I think there's only been 1 year he's brought in more than one guy. But Purdue's in a very interesting spot right now in that somebody's leaving, and we don't know who. Even with Mason Gillis and Ethan Morton electing to take their COVID year somewhere else, Purdue still has 14 scholarship guys for 13 spots with the 6 coming in. So we are not sure who is leaving. We're not sure how it is going to work out. Not sure if somebody's going to end up going to a prep school year or whatnot. But I think it's very interesting to see where Purdue is at, especially when even with so many new incoming players, they're going to be returning 3 starters and essentially 4 starters when you consider the experience that Caleb First has. I know he had a down year this past season, but he's got enough starting experience that he can be considered a de facto returning starter. So it'll be interesting to see how the new freshmen come into the mix. I look for Cannon Catchings out of Brownsburg to be the immediate impact guy. You might see a lot from Jakari Harris, who's the son of big dog Glenn Robinson. And I think it'll be a nice mix to see how everybody comes together. And they're coming into a good position where a lot of guys are returning from a team that played in the national championship game. So I don't think you're going to see a gigantic drop-off from Purdue. Yes, losing Zach Edey is huge, but Matt Painter has proven that he will build a team around what he has and the talent that he has. So I think you'll see Purdue still be very good and really look a lot different because they won't be as post-centric as they have been the last 2 years.
It's taking Edie's spot, though. Expected to be 7-footer Will Berg. Is that right?
It could be Berg. You could see them go a little bit smaller. I know smaller is on a relative term with First. You might see Trey Kaufman-Wren play more of the 5. I know that's what he's done a little bit in his career. And you might see First out at the 4. You might see Catchings play at the 4. It's going to be interesting to see how the lineup shakes out. But when you got 3 starters coming back, that's still really, really good with Lawyer, Smith, and Kaufman-Wren. And so I still think Purdue is going to be a very good team. I know a lot of the way too early top 25s have had them top 10, top 5 even. And I don't know if it's going to be quite that high, but they're not going to go anywhere. They're still going to be in the Big Ten race all season long. And that's a good place to be because now that can become a little bit self-sustaining and that recruiting can pay off. Is Purdue going to start landing 5-star guys every year? I don't think so. But Painter's modus operandi has been to recruit guys that are going to develop, maybe fill a hole or 2 with a good portal addition. And they're on quite a run right now. And I think it's a wonderful place to be when they've won 3 Big Ten championships in 7 years. And you could argue that in 2 of those 4 years they didn't win, they were a single play away from winning the titles. So I can't be happier with where they're at.
Yeah, any top 25 now is just absolutely ignorant to me because you have no idea what teams are going to be like, what anybody is when they're in the midst of filling the roster still. It's just crazy. If just looking from the outside, I would think that Purdue is going to be a decent team, but I can't imagine they're going to be anywhere close to what they have been in the last 2 years, because you had one of the most, or the dominant player that has been the most dominant player in college basketball in decades. And that was a different style, but it worked, and didn't work all the way to the very end. But it wasn't because of him. It was more because of the athleticism of UConn's guards, of the experience. And while Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are going to be another year older, it still is something for Purdue fans that they have to look at. That I don't know, that it's something that I have said and doesn't mean squat because it's coming to me, but you and I say this about Indiana or anybody. If you want to be elite, you have to have elite players. And Indiana has not had elite players at the guard in the perimeter area. They still don't right now. They just added Miles Rice, and that's not someone I consider elite. But at the same time, I don't consider Fletcher Lawyer or Braden Smith elite. By elite, I'm talking about what UConn had, guys that are NBA draft worthy. And like I said, I talk about Indiana to Indiana fans. I said, hey, if you want your team to be looked at as a potential to win it all, you've got to be elite. And until they have that, or any team has that, I don't put a lot of stock in their ability to win a national championship.
And I think we're getting there. I really am very high on Cannon Catchings. I think he is one of those quote unquote elite guys that can come in and make an immediate difference, kind of like a Jaden Ivey. Honestly, I would not be surprised to see him as an NBA prospect in a few years. Jakari Harris is also highly, highly regarded. It will be interesting to see what he develops. Obviously, he's the son of a former #1 overall pick. He's got the pedigree and everything. But we're very, very excited to see him come in. And those are two guards that are going to make a huge difference. And one that Matt Painter has been very high on that's kind of flown under the radar and has not really been noticed was CJ Cox, 2024 kid out of Milton Academy in Milton, Massachusetts. No one really knew about this guy, but he's drawn attention mostly because Coach Painter raved about him, and he's kind of hoped to be that diamond in the rough that, maybe Painter went out and saw something that nobody else did. And, I'm very interested to see what he does. He's going to be maybe the primary backup to Braden Smith at the point. And if he can give Braden Smith a couple of minutes each night with some solid play and develop kind of as that next point guard behind him for the next few years, that's where Purdue's going to be in a good position. Painter's never really had a true elite point guard. He's often run that motion offense where it's been point guard by committee. You might go back to Lewis Jackson as kind of the last real point guard he had before Braden Smith. But with the way that Braden Smith can run the offense, and he may not be an elite NBA guard, but he is a very, very, very good college basketball point guard. And I don't think you can ask for much more at this level, really.
And you mentioned Trey Kaufman-Renn possibly playing at the 5 next year, which would seem to be a really small lineup, and something that would, in today's games, most teams, even UConn, they had a 7-footer in the middle there. So that would be a difficult chore to have. What is he, 6'8"?
Something like that. And then Caleb First, I think.
So that means 6'7"?
But yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting lineup. I don't know how much Will Berg is going to play. He has shown the ability that he's a very different type of 7-footer from Zach Edey. He can step out and shoot the 3 on occasion. It's not going to be just a novelty where he might try one when Purdue's up 25 or something late in a game. He's got the ability, and he's got a nice little outside shot. He's more like a Matt Harms type 7-footer, but with a bigger body. So he's probably going to get a look there at the 5. I think it'll be between him first and Kaufman Wren. And then you've got another 7-footer coming in, because apparently that's all that Matt Painter does is go recruit 7-footers. He's got 7'2" Daniel Jacobson coming in from New Hampshire. And he will be an interesting prospect. Not sure what his impact is going to be next season, but he's kind of the next one in line behind Berg.
What is it? First of all, where does he find all these 7-footers?
There was a tweet going around a few years ago. I think it was when Berg committed, that he just has a guy on staff that wanders the earth saying, I've heard tell of a giant around these parts. I mean, but if you're a 7-footer with what he's been able to do, and he's gotten guys at least briefly to the NBA, and they've had a lot of success in college, why wouldn't you want to come and work at Purdue? I mean, look at what he was able to do with Zach Edey, and Zach Edey is going to go to the NBA despite what his detractors say. And I honestly think he can hang around. He's not going to be a dominant player. He's not going to fit with most NBA offenses right now, but can he be a solid contributor on a team for 5 to 10 years? Absolutely. Absolutely. And he's going to make a lot of money that way. And who can complain about that?
You'll make more money than I do. I can guarantee you that. And I'd trade spot with him for just 2, 3, 4 years, man. That would be it. That'd be all you need.
Right. First round pick. He gets what? A 3-year guaranteed contract worth a couple $1 million.
Yep.
Sign me up.
Purdue fans, they got to taste Final Four for the first time in 44 years. Is that enough for them, having still not been able to bring a title home, making the Final Four? Because, next year, I have no idea what next year will be like for Purdue. I really don't. So I'm not going to even pretend to guess. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to be what this year was. That it's not going to be that way for a lot of teams, for that matter. But knowing that that's not going to be there next year, not getting that title, that had to be very, very disappointing for the Boiler fans.
I mean, personally, for me, I don't think so. I mean, it took maybe one of the all-time great teams to beat them, and UConn was absolutely the better team. You could see that from the beginning. Purdue had made a game for it for much of the first half. I think they were down 2 with like 2 minutes to go in the first half before UConn really made that big kick to pull away. But 360 other teams didn't make the national championship game. Purdue did. And it was the first time in 44 years that Purdue was playing on the final weekend of the season. I don't think there's no way you can't consider the year an unquestioned success. And there's no shame in losing to that good of a UConn team, because they took Purdue completely out of the game. Purdue only attempted 7 3-pointers. And that is a credit to UConn's defense. They absolutely took away the perimeter the entire game. And that was your difference in the game. But, this program has finally proven that, yes, it can win in March. It can make a Final Four. And I honestly think that that's something that...
Well, but have they, without a generational dominant player such as Zach Edey?
Teams get hot all the time. I mean, look how many 11 seeds have made a Final Four. Are you going to take away what North Carolina State did? They made it this year on an incredible run. And that mental block of, can they get it done in March? Can they go to a Final Four? That's gone. That is out of the way. And no longer are we going to have to hear, 44 years. We're not going to have to hear, they just can't get it done. They always blow it. This team didn't blow it. I mean, it took an incredible UConn team to beat them. And I think that is only going to pay dividends in the long run. Oh, there went a cat behind me. And that's only going to pay dividends in the long run. I don't think it's going to be another 44 years before they make it back. If you look at next year's roster, again, anything can happen before the first game of the season. Anything can happen in any offseason. There's only one senior on the roster this coming season, and that is Caleb First. So if there is some success there with the 6 incoming freshmen, with who is coming back, most of that team can return in 2025-26. And so you've got a roster with the way that Matt Painter builds and the way that guys hang around, they're going to be good for a long time. And if they, they're going to have a drop off, and who knows how slight it's going to be or how big it's going to be. But if they are a contender in the Big Ten again, and they are getting to the second weekend of the tournament, you look at 2025-26, they're going to be able to return most of that team. So I don't think Purdue could be in a better spot right now, especially with as quickly as you can turn over rosters, just how muddled college basketball can be. It says something when you can keep a core of players together because they play so well together. And that's going to be huge going forward for Purdue.
With Purdue seeming to be one of the more, I don't know if I should use the word family-oriented programs right now, but that's just a way to think about it. Why is Mason Gillis, and Ethan Morton, in essence, being run off?
I don't know if they were so much run off as I don't think Painter has really expected them to stay around. The COVID year has been such a weird thing for everybody in college basketball. And I think Coach Painter has recruited like he's not expecting guys to stay around for that extra year. And I think
Morton, I get he's not a major contributor. Gillis was the fourth highest 3-point shooter on the team.
Yeah, I would love to keep Gillis around. He's going to be an asset to wherever he lands. And I think Morton can be good at a smaller program, and he can be a real contributor, a real leader. I think Gillis is the biggest loss from that, aside from obviously Zach Edey. But, Painter has had that happen. He has not kept any guys for that extra COVID year so far, and these are the last two on the roster. So, I think it was mutual. I think Morton and Gillis knew coming into the season that this was going to be their last ride at Purdue, and I think they were okay with it. I think Painter was okay with it. And, yes, it would be fantastic if Gillis could stay around. I would absolutely accept him back. I would accept Ethan Morton back with his leadership and the way he's been in his career, but it just didn't work out, and Purdue is going to move on, and I think they will be just fine in the long run without him. And whoever gets both of those players is going to have a tremendous asset for a season. Gillis could be – you put Gillis on any high major team that has a lot returning, he could be the difference between – he could be help them be a conference champion or reach another Final Four, honestly. He's that good and a great sixth man. So whoever picks him up will get a great player, a great piece for their team.
And I mentioned earlier, with 6 freshmen coming in, that's going to be a lot to rely on youth, especially when teams are using the portal so much now to build their team. Danny Hurley, by the way, he lost 75% of his offense off of the national championship team a year ago, goes out and replaces that. And all 3 NBA players, no less, that he lost, replaces that, though, with very similar type production, which went a long way in being able to replace or repeat as national champions. That's getting something done.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how many other teams go about the certain approach, because being in the Big Ten is going to allow Painter to keep those guys and build something. I don't think he's going to have the problems that an Indiana State or any other smaller conference program is going to have, where they get some guys that are really, really good, and then all of a sudden they're getting plucked away by other schools. That's not going to happen at Purdue. I mean, right now, Purdue is one of the 10 best programs in the country, arguably. And I think that's going to play huge dividends.
Why do you say that? This 2-year run has been tremendous, but I don't think that equals being that. And I'm not.
It's been more than a 2-year run. I mean, the only down year they really had was the 2019-20 season.
That's not true. They lost to a 16 seed, a 15 seed, and a 14 seed.
But in the regular season, their regular season results have more than spoke for it. I mean, they were in the top 10 the entire 2021-22 season. They've been in the top 10 for 3 consecutive years. So, that's more than just, oh, you caught lightning in a bottle. That's a program. That is a team that is going out and able to compete every night. And again, 3 Big Ten titles in 7 years, a play away twice from 2 more. You're not asking for much. I mean, what more can they do aside from their March troubles? And even they got over that this past season. So I really like what Painter's doing. I think he's growing a program, and I think that consistency of keeping the same guys in year after year. Yeah, they've got 6 freshmen coming in. They still have 3 starters returning, plus a couple of bench guys that were major contributors with Camden Heide and Miles Colvin, who are going to play a larger role next year. That's huge, and that helps you integrate those freshmen rather than, okay, we have to essentially start over with a freshman-laden team. And then you build that, you keep them around, and then when it comes time for Smith and Lawyer and all of them to graduate, now you've got, a Cannon Catchings, a Jakari Harris, a Daniel Jacobson as sophomores and juniors that have the experience, and they can pass that down to the next freshman. That's the way Painter's building his programs, and I've got to say, so far it is working. And if it means that they're going to be in the top 4 of the Big Ten every season, they're going to be a threat to at least make the second weekend of the tournament. Okay. There are 350 other programs in the country that would die to have that consistency and be able to be there every year. And, I liken it to this. The bare minimum expectation at Purdue right now is to make the NCAA tournament, therefore having a chance to have a deep run. How many other teams in the country can say that?
Heidi
How
was
many
someone
other
I
teams
thought
can say that?
I'm surprised that didn't get more playing time. He seems to be the most athletic player on that team. Man, he was surprising.
Yeah, I think Colvin will get more playing time. I think Heidi will get a lot more playing time. They, one of those two is probably going to be starting next year. And that's going to be big. And you pair them with a Cannon Catchings. Again, I am very, very high on Cannon Catchings. I think he is going to be a tremendous player for Purdue.
Oh, a lot of people are. He's a great one. What's up next for you?
Well, like I said off the show, we're keeping an eye on Purdue baseball right now. They've won 7 in a row in Big Ten play. They swept Michigan State this weekend by a combined score of 42-3. So they are red hot at the moment, and they have only won 1 Big Ten championship since 1909, but they're in the thick of the race. And, it'll be interesting to see if they can keep it together and maybe sneak into the NCAA tournament. Would only be the 4th appearance ever for the program, but it would be the 3rd in the last 12 years. So it's something exciting to watch, and we'll see how that goes down. I know they've got a big series coming up with IU in a few weeks up in West Lafayette.
Always fun, man. Always fun. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. Make sure you're giving him a follow, especially if you're a Purdue fan, keeping up with what all's going on up in West Lafayette. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You betcha, buddy. We'll talk to you next week. We've got a lot more coming up here. Don't forget, brought to you by the Ugly Gripper, located on beautiful Anna Maria Island, Florida. If you're already in the area, or you will be, the Ugly Gripper has much more than just unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Gripper has your favorite craft beers, cocktails, along with live music every day. It's family friendly and able to host private parties. Has the biggest gripper you've ever seen. The Ugly Gripper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat Radio sent you. Just go to theuglygripper.com. Back with more after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
All right, we'll have about 10 minutes here to wrap up.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Miles
Good Monday.
Rice. I'm just not. We'll see.
Step out for 1 second.
We shall see. Oh, we shall see.
All right.
Man, he shot 27% from 3-point range on just one make per game. That's terrible.
Who are you talking about?
Miles Rice.
He must be more of a driving guard.
Yeah,
he
but
scored
still,
15 a game.
shit, that's awful. If it was on 8 makes a game, that'd be one thing. But that's on 1 make a game.
Was that for his last part of the season or for the entire season?
That was for the season.
Yeah, he must not shoot or make very many threes, period. If he's still scoring 15, he must just be good. He must not be much of a shooter.
Yeah.
But again, that's why he got 5 more open scholarships. Find someone who is a shooter. Maybe, is he a point guard or is he a shooting guard?
He just needs to be a distributor or get to the rim and get fouled because he does shoot 80% at the free throw line.
So he must be Indiana's answer at point guard.
Right now it is.
All right, here we go.
It is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. How's everybody doing? Post Masters weekend. Indiana lands Miles Rice as one of their point guards in the future. I'm not sure if they'll shoot for anybody else in that position. You've got Trey Galloway coming back, Anthony Leo coming back, Ja'Kai Newton coming back, all 3 guards. And now add Rice to that. But with Ballo on a visit today, right now, you still have 4 other spots that you can use, which I'm thinking that I'm thinking maybe 2 more guards, or whether it's a guard or a 2-3 hybrid. But some people like it. I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. He's a great free throw shooter, shooting 80% from the line, but he's not much on shooting from behind the arc. He only averaged 27% on 1 made 3 per game. So he doesn't put a lot up, but he also doesn't hit them at a very high percentage. That's usually not a great combination, but I have not scouted him a ton, so maybe he has enough accolades that it makes up for that. Obviously, there's something there about him.
And one other thing to keep in mind too is, that was only his first real year of college basketball. He has 3 years of eligibility remaining, and maybe his 3-point shot, maybe that's not really a part of his game. Maybe he's more of a dribble drive kind of a guard, but plenty of room for improvement with plenty of eligibility left.
He was the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, so that says a lot. He averaged 15 points a game, so that in and of itself, that's a nice addition, and 4 assists per game in addition to 3 rebounds. So he can add help across the board, and as long as you have guys that are 3-point shooters, you're okay. So and maybe that gets better. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people that seem to come to Indiana, their shooting goes down. Let's hope that's not the case. But everyone seems to be happy with that. So whatever, it's not for me to judge right now. We'll certainly see how that works out and see what else they get to go with that. We just finished up with Travis Miller. He seems very happy with the 6 freshmen that are coming in. If it were me, I would be a little leery if I were a Purdue fan, because you just lost one of the most generational players in decades, who was the biggest reason of your success. And while you do have your starting guards back for the 3rd consecutive year, which gives them experience, and they lit people up during the season, but we also saw how and what their kryptonite was, and that's athletic defense. If you're athletic and defensively, they can be shut down. Will they have, obviously they won't have a Zach Edey to bail them out. And as far as having Trey Kaufman-Renn playing the 5, well, that would really be a head scratcher. That's just not going to work. He would get destroyed by people like Ballo, for example, or if someone like Trace Jackson Davis was still there. That's going to be curious. I meant to, and I forgot to ask Travis, his thoughts on the Big Ten next year. While we don't know yet, because we've not seen Purdue. We know what they're going to have. Illinois, man, they have just been toiling underneath of this Zach Edey thing for a couple of years. Is this their year to break out? Brad Underwood has continued to do a really good job there, and he has used the portal each year to fill needs. And is this the year for the Illini? As they made a pretty good run at the NCAA tournament this year. Of course, they will be without their star, Terrence Shannon Jr. He'll be gone. And so the portal's there. It's going to be interesting. Who else? Michigan State is always someone that is talked about. What are they going to be like? So it's going to be interesting to see who does what next year. You got Northwestern that lost a ton. Boo Booey. Got to say Boo Booey. What will Northwestern be like? Ohio State. We saw them make a run at the end of the season under Jake Diebler, the new coach. So there's going to be a lot of unknowns, and it's going to be fun to find all that out. Football, of course, coming up this Thursday. Indiana's spring football game happens as they continue to add guys to their roster. I saw that they added another commitment. And they also landed at Ohio linebacker. They landed one from a commitment from a Texas linebacker, or no, a Florida linebacker. So Kurt Cignetti, while he has rebuilt his roster immediately, he is continuing to build for their future, adding 2025 guys. Most have a lot of commitments in classes that are further out. But getting a start on that, one of the prospects recently offered was Storm Miller out of Strongsville High School in Ohio. He has been in Bloomington, and Kurt Cignetti is doing a good job, it seems, of working on his team today and working to build that future as soon as possible. So we'll see how that works out, but it's going to be interesting. I think that Indiana is going to go bowling this year. That's crazy to say before we've seen a single snap from I haven't seen a single snap, but a real live snap. We'll get to see some of that at the spring game on Thursday. How many of you are going to that? Did anybody go to the concert? Just curious. It was cool being out there. That was a fun night. Weather was good. Everyone seemed to have a great time. I enjoyed it. Got
you
to
stay for all four.
with,
Curious your thoughts on this new style of country music, Jimbo?
What's that?
So, did you stay for all four of the acts? I'm curious of your thoughts on this new style of country music as we wrap this show up today.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't know any of Jesse Murph's songs, and I knew some of John Party's. Of course, I knew Clayton's music, but I did not. I knew just like maybe one song of Kane Brown's that I had heard, or two. It's everything changes, so I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
everything's always going to change. It's not a liking it or not liking it. Really, I just haven't kept up with it, and I've got enough to do now. I'm like, well, yeah, I can't be adding a whole nother thing to follow. But it was fun, so everyone had fun. Man, I saw little kids that were singing the words to Kane Brown's songs and whatnot. It does what it's supposed to do. It reaches an audience. What about you?
Oh, I said 30 seconds a minute ago. So.
Oh, perfect. That works out great. Hey, man, I cannot thank Todd Leary enough as always. Of course, Greg Rakestraw as well. We've got Travis Miller joined us from Boiler Upload. So it was a full day. We've got lots more coming tomorrow. Mike DeCourcy, of course, Chronic Hoosier, and we'll see what else we can get scared up for you as we continue to plow into the week ahead that has all kinds of action going on with the transfer portal happening over the weekend. I'll talk more about the Indiana Elite, that program out in action in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Guys like Trent Sisley and Malachi Moreno, Desmond Briscoe and Braylon Mullins are all on that squad. What a squad that is. So, but they picked up some wins, so great for them as well. And we'll talk more about that and catch up with it. But hope you guys had a great day and go out and have an incredible one as the weather is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us today. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Until then, for John, the producer, keeping us between the white lines, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.